Welcome back, ladies and gents. Of course, we just saw Luminosity being able to defeat their counterparts, their Brazilian counterparts, Immortals on Nuke, their choice. And we saw that they definitely were quite well versed in their Nuke play. It looked pretty awesome. I was impressed with their T side for sure.
I was pretty impressed too. You could see that they had a clear game plan, how to, you know, get map control and then have just basically wait reaction from their opponents, right? You have to react once you lose yard control. Then if you win a round by going initially secret and all of that usual stuff, doing the lower split, then you can use that to your advantage in multiple ways. So it was pretty cool to see, especially after they lose that third round to the felps Deagle Ace. That can be pretty crushing, you know, but they still managed to recover extremely well.
Yeah, I mean, James, they didn't ever look to be phased, actually. We saw even their kind of eco, where they had like a few smokes and flashes, they seemed like, we have a plan for this. They always seem to have a plan on T-side.
Yeah, they were very prepared for Nuke, and it was very impressive to see. So now we've had some more evidence. I know you were a believer in Luminosity, and it's hard for me not to be now after that. I did enjoy that Nuke. It was very, very cool stuff to see. So, I mean, props to them. And again, I think when you have a Deagle Ace that early into the round, when you've just been losing some rounds, I think that can compound things and give the opponent more on their scoreboard than they would have necessarily had, you know, on a normal day. But yeah, props to them. It's good. Good T-half.
I think it's important to know that if you are an up-and-coming team, perhaps if you're not at the highest level yet, even individually, perhaps you don't have the strongest players, which I'm not saying in this case for Luminosity. It's just that it's a great way for you to try and match up against better opponents, against higher opposition, by having a lot of strategies, a lot of executes with grenades, smokes, molotovs, a lot of set pieces, because what that allows you to do, and your players, you know exactly what you need to do, right? Everyone is pretty comfortable, you know what positions you need to cover, what your teammates need to cover, how the round will end, and you know the things that can go wrong by practicing it in scrims. So after that, it's just a matter of finding out, okay, when should we call which strat, when it's a bad time to call a strat, when it's a good time, and the different adjustments. And that's a great way to start playing, and then after you get the hang of it, then you can move to add more like loose default plays, which are put more pressure on individuals to, you know, not really make mistakes early on.
And speaking of picking the right rounds, I feel like Luminosity definitely were able to do that in this matchup, despite not having as many rounds as maybe they would against the felps Ace and so on. You got a clip to illustrate just that.
Yeah, this was in the middle of the half. It was round 9, so you can see how Luminosity is doing the outside smokes, the default ones, pretty much. Take note of that Molotov. I'll mention it a bit later on. And actually, because they've been throwing these smokes a lot, going for secret control, you can see how both players, the CT players, are staying passively. And those are actually both ops. So Henny's in the window room. You can see felps near the hangar, and they're basically, he's looking for rafters and he's waiting for someone to either push through the smoke. So that's why these smokes have been extremely useful for this execute. You can see how obviously it obstructs vision for these two players, and they kind of don't know whether someone can go secret, and that's why the Molotov is important here. That Molotov basically should be a giveaway. That might be a small mistake, but this is like really, really minor detail, because if you throw a Molotov in secret, the chances are slim that you're actually going to go there. So you basically want to stop someone from rotating and shooting you in the back, but didn't matter to Immortals. So you can see how they're both focused on yard because of what happened previously. The two players on upper are on hot and close to the vents, very close to each other. And now you can see how this execute is pretty cool, even though they don't use that much utility in the end, simply because they have a three-pronged attack. Through a main, it's a bit hard to draw on Nuke, through hot and through squeaky here. And that way, considering the fact that two players are still on yard, they have a pretty easy time splitting the defense, don't even lose a single man on the execute, and win the round pretty convincingly. You'll be able to see it how the execute looked like in game. So you can see that they don't even throw the molly on hot, which is very potent as well. They have one player, he decides to throw it that position above the hut, basically, but it was really cool to see. Because of the pressure they put on Yard early, they forced the CTs to play a bit more passively, and then they just switch up the pace by going for that push through their own smokes into main. That's something that the CTs didn't expect, and sure, one of the players had a mag 7, so not like the optimal buy for the CTs, but I think it wouldn't have mattered. In the end, I think they would have lost the round anyway.
Another cool point, actually, was I also saw that Luminosity were actually running some players on catwalk quite, like in some rounds as well. So like it's just an additional reason for the Orpas to like want to play passively outside, which is like quite cool.
That's why Felps was still holding that angle. I'm not really sure why Henny was still there with the op. Maybe he should have went to Heaven earlier, but that's all a matter of, you know, things that happened previously in the half. He was not expecting that execute to come in, so it was a great call for Luminosity to go for that particular strat at the moment in which they did, and they managed to win 7 rounds. Yes, with pistol, but they lost the 3rd round, so it's not as clear-cut as when we say team wins T-pistol and then is able to rack up rounds.
All right, well, that about does it for the post-game, and now it's time to actually move on to Mirage, as I think the players are pretty much ready and raring to go, so we'll go to a quick break, and when we're back, we'll have Mirage.